Okay, here we are on the day where Bitcoin crossed $100,000 for the first time, and I've got a very big show for you guys today, because on the day when when Bitcoin crossed $100,000 for the first time, I get to host a show between Peter Schiff, who will be here live, who has said repeatedly that Bitcoin's going to fail and that Bitcoin's never going to hit $100,000, and Fred Krueger, who basically says that the best thing he could have done is not invest with Peter Schiff, and that Peter Schiff has been wrong all along. So I guess it's probably a little bit unfair, but probably a good day to be having this discussion with Peter and Fred live here today. It's going to be a big show, second show of the day. Let's get going, guys. Let's do this. All right, we're back for the second time today on the day where Bitcoin's hit $100,000. We're now at 101,688. And today I've got an amazing show for you guys. I've got two guests with us live. I've got Peter Schiff and I've got Fred Krueger. And we're going to be talking about the future of Bitcoin, Bitcoin versus gold. And maybe we'll even find somewhere where these two actually agree on something in common ground. But I do have a lot of things that I want to cover with them. So listen, if this is your first time on our channel, then what I recommend you do is subscribe to the channel. We're over 1.12 million subscribers, growing extremely fast. And if you're a regular, if you're one of the fam, all I need you to do is to smash the like button, because as you know, this is an unscheduled show, and because it's unscheduled, we need the whole familia to know about it. The only way they know about it is if you actually obliterate and destroy the like button. All right, so I'm not going to waste any time today. I'm going to get straight into it, and I'm going to bring the guests in. And I got to be honest, Peter, I know we scheduled this debate or this discussion a long time ago, and I feel kind of bad that we're getting you on today on the day where Bitcoin's just hit $100,000, especially in light of the fact that you've said, a few times that you don't think Bitcoin's going to go over $100,000. I think probably first question is, what would it take for you to change your tune on Bitcoin? I mean, you've been wrong for a long time. I've facilitated multiple debates. What would it take for you to change your thesis here?
Well, first of all, I hate to be crashing your Bitcoin 100,000 party, but yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would get here, though. I looked at a lot of clips that people put up where they asked me if I thought it could get there, and I said, well, it's possible it could. I'm not going to say it couldn't get there. So it's not like I said there's no way it could get there. I always acknowledged that it could get there, and I don't think it would have gotten there but for the election of Trump. I think if Trump had lost the election, Bitcoin would be less than half its current price, maybe quite a bit less. So I think it's very ironic that it's the government bailout that's really propping up Bitcoin at the moment. I think a lot of it has to do with the prospect that the U.S. government is actually going to buy Bitcoin using the public money. And if that happens, sure, Bitcoin can go a lot higher. I mean, that would be a massive mistake. It would be a windfall for the people who own Bitcoin and get to sell it to the U.S. government, but it would be a massive loss for the country as a whole. And I think that everything about Bitcoin is detrimental to the country. I think we're squandering a tremendous amount of resources on Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related businesses that could be productively invested elsewhere. Instead, they're being misdirected to this bubble. So I think it's very unfortunate what's going on. Sure, people who own it can cash out and make some money at the expense of whoever's going to be left holding the bag. And I hope it's not the U.S. taxpayer on the hook as well. But, I don't think I've been wrong about my basic understanding of Bitcoin or ultimately what's going to happen to it. You could say I was wrong not to speculate on it and buy it, because I clearly could have sold it at any point along the way, including today, if I still had it, and made a lot of money. But I don't accept the fact that my basic understanding is wrong. I think that those who have got it wrong are the ones who have bought it. Now, they've made money on it because other people have gotten it wrong, right? That's the whole greater fool principle. But so far, nothing that I've seen has caused me to change my mind on the fundamental nature of what's going on here.
So, Peter, I mean, you're a big gold bull. You've been a gold bull for a long time. You probably know that yesterday Jerome Powell basically said this. I'm going to play it. It's very soft, but I think...
One of the reasons I wanted to actually ask about Bitcoin is, to some degree, people think that is a symbol of people's faith or lack of faith.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear that?
Or in the Federal
No, I
Reserve
can't hear
itself,
that, but I don't have to. I heard it. I heard it myself, so I can comment on it.
That's how people think about it. I mean, it's so.
Yeah, so I mean, Jerome Powell came out last night and he said, "Look, this is that Bitcoin is more of a competitor to gold, and it's more of a digital gold." I mean,
Yeah, Jerome Powell gets a lot of things wrong, like when he said inflation was transitory. I don't think he has a good understanding of gold or money, despite the fact that he's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. I think Alan Greenspan, as much as I criticized him philosophically, I think he understands money, gold, far more than Jerome Powell. And if you look at what Alan Greenspan has said, he said that Bitcoin is nothing like gold, that it has no intrinsic value, that its appeal is based on the greater fool theory. Greenspan and I are on exactly the same page. So, he was the Fed chairman for a lot longer than Powell's been Fed chairman. And, he's the Ayn Rand guy. He's the libertarian, not Jerome Powell. So I think if the Bitcoin community, wants to hang its hat on Jerome Powell and think like he's the be all and end all, and just because he thinks that Bitcoin is digital gold, Alan Greenspan is much more philosophically aligned with the free market, libertarian, hard money, portion of Bitcoin, and he and I are on the exact same page when it comes to Bitcoin and gold comparisons.
Fred, I see you holding up the Alan Greenspan photo with the quote that says, "United States can pay any debt it has because it can always print money to do that. There is zero probability of default." Maybe tell us.
So, yes, that is a true statement. We can print money and we can cause massive inflation. We don't have to default. That's correct. I think default is better than causing hyperinflation, but that's the point that Greenspan was making, and Powell would agree with him. We just keep printing money. It's not a good thing, but it is a reality. It's one of the reasons that I recommended people hold gold as opposed to US dollars, because that's exactly what I expect to happen.
Fred?
Well, listen, I mean, I'm going to start by saying, listen, I am a gold bug from before when Peter was a gold bug. Okay. I'm literally older than Peter, and I bought my first gold before Peter. Okay,
How old are you?
64.
All right. Well, you're 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
I bought my first...
You went to Berkeley. I got a PhD at Stanford before you graduated from Berkeley.
I couldn't get into Stanford. They rejected me. So you got me there. But
okay.
I bought my first gold when I was 13. I took my bar mitzvah money and I bought some gold. So I don't know when you bought
your bar mitzvah money aside. I bought my first gold bullion from JP Morgan in Paris in 1991. Sorry.
All right, so that was after me.
And I've owned I've never sold my gold. Never sold my gold. And by the way, I was one of the top Wall Street traders the year prior, and I took 10% of my money and I put it in gold bullion, which I still have to this day. I've also added gold coins along the way, right? So I'm a gold guy. We're not completely from different planets. I'm definitely a gold guy. And by the way, I've owned gold miners. I've owned the GLD ETF along the way.
My condolences. It's been tough.
Listen, so what I'm just saying is, like, we came from the same place, The only difference between you and me, we were both Wall Streeters, we were both gold bugs. The only difference is somewhere along the line, I embraced Bitcoin. And I didn't embrace it like I'm moving all my money to Bitcoin. That's not what happened. But what happened to me was I listened to Tom Lee in 2019. I was in Bermuda, and I was on actually a bank opening in Bermuda. And I had the chance to sit around with Tom Lee for 3 days. And I said, "Hey, Tom, where do you think this Bitcoin stuff's going?" And he's like, $1 million. And I'm like, it's $5,000, Tom. And he's like, it's going to $1 million. And he gave me the reasons. After I came back, I said, I got to stop screwing around with this crypto, just like Peter Schiff did. And I got to take a meaningful position. And I did. And that meaningful position now is the majority of my net worth, right? And since then, I've been buying more Bitcoin. I continue to buy more Bitcoin.
You've never sold any of it?
not any meaningful amount. I mean, unlike you, I've used Bitcoin, right? So I have wallets. I understand. You can't really, it's like you can't go to the gym by looking through the window. You know, it doesn't give you any benefit. You have to sort of understand Bitcoin, which you don't, because you don't have
I think I do understand it. A lot of people say I don't understand.
So wait, hold on. I mean,
Fred,
Fred, just a second. Peter, if you understand Bitcoin, perhaps tell us why you don't believe that Bitcoin is a digital value of gold, a digital version of gold.
Because it doesn't have any of the properties of gold. It can't do anything that gold could do. It's not a metal. I can't use it to do anything. Right? It's just a meaningless string of numbers. And there are thousands of other cryptocurrencies or tokens that have been created since Bitcoin. Who knows how many more will be created? If they keep creating them. But I don't see anything unique about it, other than the fact that yes, a lot of people have built infrastructure around it. I see all that as a complete waste. And there are a lot of people who are in this cult who just believe that it's so special and so unique. But everything about it to me just screams like it's a bubble, like it's a speculative mania. I mean, ever since I first saw Bitcoin, when it first started, 2009, 2010, it hasn't changed anything. I mean, it's enriched some people who bought it, but ultimately at the expense of those who don't sell. I mean, the people who bought it early and sell it, but nobody's life is changed. It's not, they compare it to the internet. Well, 15 years into the internet, my life was completely changed by the internet. In fact, we're on the internet now. I use the internet all the time. I don't use Bitcoin at all. And even the people that own it rarely use it for anything. They just buy and sell it, but they could buy and sell something else, or they can gamble on sports or whatever. Nothing has really changed. It's the most overhyped technology that's out there.
Fred?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, Peter, it's interesting because when I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013, and I didn't take it seriously at all, and I sold my first Bitcoin in 2013 as well, right? And I didn't take it seriously. And my objections to it were very similar to yours. Like, I basically came to it and I said, what's special about Bitcoin? And as a tech guy, because I sold many tech companies, I kept on thinking there's going to be a bigger, faster, cheaper, better UI version of this thing, right? So I thought Bitcoin's going to be like the MySpace, and there's going to be a Facebook after it, or it'll be the Lycos. Yeah. And that literally it took me 6 years to get over that objection, right? Because I kept on going to, what's to stop somebody else from just making a better one of these things, right?
What is there?
Okay, so, well, first of all, Peter, if you don't understand that, you don't get Bitcoin, right? Because that is the fundamental problem differentiator between Bitcoin and every copy of Bitcoin. Forget other things like Ethereum or Solana or other things, right? But just there's many copies of Bitcoin. There's
yes, I know. There's a bunch of them,
right? Yes. So why is Bitcoin more valuable than Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin, right? There are very small differences between the code of Litecoin and Bitcoin, very small, right? And the difference is that it's a network, right? So it's sort of like the difference between, what is the difference between eBay and a complete copy of eBay that is running on Rand's server, right? It's not hard to, at this point, get a copy of eBay running on Rand. The difference is the people. It's the network, right? So Bitcoin is a network with 100 million participants in network, and humans using that 100 plus 200 million people use Bitcoin, and it is an enormous amount of investment is been put into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and not just, you say it's a waste of money, but it's not. This is people are investing their life savings and into this infrastructure, right? And this is a new convention, just like money was a new convention, right? Just like gold was. Before gold, there were seashells, there were other kind of artifacts that were used. Eventually, gold and silver became, the two that sort of won, and eventually gold won over silver. And I think, this is just a better form of money that is going to, it will replace gold. It will replace fiat. There's no chance that gold goes back. We go back to the gold standard. There's none, zero.
Well, we're certainly not going to go to a Bitcoin standard.
I think there's an incredibly high chance that we go to a Bitcoin standard. That's the problem. And if we do, Peter, it's probably going to happen in your lifetime too.
Well, I don't think Bitcoin is going to, be around for the rest of my life. I mean, the whole network that you're talking about, this big network of all these people, the vast majority of the people in this network are just using Bitcoin to gamble with. They buy it because they think they're going to get rich. Yes, they do.
No,
Peter, may I ask, what is it that makes gold so valuable? I mean, I get that gold has some use cases.
Well, what do you mean some use case? It's the most useful metal that there is. There's no other metal that you can do as much with.
What do people actually use? Gold for other than?
Oh, come on! I mean, look, the stuff that people say about Bitcoin is actually almost as ridiculous as the stuff they say about gold to try to claim that gold has no value either. So what's wrong with Bitcoin? I wanted to talk more about this idea, this network that you say makes Bitcoin so valuable, because there's so many people that are in this network. They're not captives there. It's not like they can't decide they don't want to be a part of it anymore. I think a lot of the money in Bitcoin, especially all the new money that's now sitting in these ETFs, they're not married to this. This is a trade. This is, hey, I bought this because I think it's going to go up, and I'm going to sell it one day, and I'm going to have a lot more money than when I bought it, right? They're not going to hodl till they die. They're not going to the grave with their Bitcoin. But I think that all this appeal is going to fizzle, and that the size of the network, just like you mentioned, MySpace had a big network of people, but then Facebook came along and it created a bigger network. And, Facebook is on the way out. I don't know. That's why they bought Instagram, because Instagram started to disrupt Facebook. And now you got TikTok that's bigger than it, that's more important than Instagram. I mean, things change.
Well, yes, but this is where the technological background actually hurts. And this is why VCs typically have not figured out Bitcoin. Like, you talk to most Silicon Valley VCs, they're not long Bitcoin. And the reason is they think it's going to get replaced by better, faster, cheaper, right? And, I made this mistake early in my crypto journey too, because I got seduced by this blockchain called EOS, right? These guys raised, and Brock. I know.
Yeah, Brock's my neighbor. Yes, he started EOS.
And he's my friend too. Look, so we're friends, and I created the first wallet for EOS way back when, right? And it became, but the problem is, and there's a new one now. It's just, there's Solana. It's sort of the new EOS, right? It's this idea of better, faster. There'll be something that'll be newer and faster and better than Solana down the road. Who knows, right? But these things in tech people think the problem is payments. That's not the problem. It's here. The problem is digital scarcity. Can you create something digital that's not a way to make money, but it's just a way to save your money, right? And that's the primary use case of Bitcoin. The primary use case of Bitcoin is in the third world.
You're saving nothing.
They're saving it. Look, this use case is that if you're living in Lebanon, or let's say you're living in Ukraine, right? And you have some money in some factory in Ukraine. All of a sudden, Russia invades you. How valuable is that factory now? Not that valuable. If you have gold and you have to move it across the border, it's going to be very difficult to move that gold across the border.
But I don't have to move it across the border. What if I have it stored in Switzerland or Singapore? What if I don't keep it?
most of the world are not clients of Schiff, Euro Pacific Asset Management. Most of the world do not have that much money, and they have to find some way to store their money and move it in a way that is unconfiscatable.
Yeah, I
They
could create.
can't.
I could tokenize gold and let people buy it, or I can have a closed network. I mean, you could buy gold from anywhere in the world and that you own. That's not
different.
stored in your.
But
country.
hold on, Peter. I mean, when I look at gold, and I'm speaking from personal experience here. My family come from Iraq, and in Iraq there were very rich goldsmiths, and they were forced to leave Iraq. And when they wanted to leave and they wanted to take the gold with them, unfortunately the authorities said, no, you can't take your gold with you. And that to me showed a huge flaw in storing your wealth in gold, because it's very difficult to transport.
No, it's not. And how much gold do you think people have? You could fit, millions of dollars worth of gold in a shoebox. It's not like it's like really expensive to lug it around. I mean, if you've got so much gold that you can't carry it, I mean, you got a lot of money. But you can keep that. You don't have to keep it.
You can own a digital, but you can own a digital version of it, which has the same qualities. In other words, it's digitally and
Bitcoin is not a digital version. Bitcoin is not a digital version of gold. It's its own animal. It's like no more than an image of a hamburger is not digital food, right? There's a big difference between an actual hamburger and an image of a hamburger.
But I mean, if you look at the qualities that Bitcoin has, it's you agree with me, it's digitally scarce, right? You can't argue that it's digitally scarce.
I will agree that it's scarce in that there's only 2.1 quadrillion satoshis, right? So if the only crypto token that you want is, a bundle of satoshis, then it's scarce in that sense. But if you're open to other cryptos that are just as good or better, faster, cheaper, whatever, then it isn't scarce because there's no limit to the number that can be created. But scarcity in and of itself doesn't create value. Just because something is scarce doesn't mean it's going to have any value.
Look, there are other metals as well, right? There's tin.
Yes, exactly.
There's tin. There's silver. Now,
but they don't have the properties of gold. You can't you can't do the same thing. I can do the same thing with Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash that you could do with Bitcoin. I can trade it. I can send it to somebody else. Right? They're basically the same. Just
But I mean,
different names.
Clearly they're not, because clearly the value of Litecoin has not gone up as much as the value of Bitcoin, and clearly the number of people using Litecoin to save their money.
I agree. For now. Yes, a lot more people are speculating on Bitcoin and are hoarding Bitcoin than those other cryptos. But I mean,
can you not say the same thing? Can you not say the same thing about gold? Can you not say the same thing about gold versus silver? Can you not say the same thing about gold versus?
Look, I got this gold watch on, right? I mean, I can't really make this watch out of copper. I mean, it wouldn't work if Rolex made the watch out of copper. It wouldn't have the same functionality.
This Apple Watch tells the time better than your gold watch. Okay.
No, I have an Apple Watch too. But
if you're just saying which one tells time, this one tells time.
No,
just not great, right?
It's not about so you don't know anything about watches. It's not just to tell time, right? I can just tell time with my phone. A man doesn't wear a watch to tell time. It's a piece of jewelry. It's a status symbol. It's
But why do you think? But Peter, why do you think a gold Rolex is more sought after than a silver Rolex? What is it about a gold Rolex that makes it more sought after than a silver Rolex?
Well, they're very beautiful. I mean, if you look at them, I mean, they really look nice.
You could say that's
you could take a shower. You could go swimming. You could take a shower. You don't have to take it off.
I'm asking.
Heirloom. I could leave it to my kids. They can wear their father's watch.
I'm asking specifically. What is the difference between why do you think a gold Rolex is more expensive than a silver Rolex? What is it about?
First of all, the gold is more expensive for Rolex to buy. Number one, so but why? Got to cost more.
But why?
Gold is more valuable than silver. It's always been more valuable.
But why? Why is gold more valuable than silver?
Because of its properties, and that's the gold.
What are the properties? What are the properties that make gold more valuable than silver?
It's all the metallic properties. Go look them up. The things that gold can do that other metals can't do, and the use cases. Look, I talk about this big giant telescope that a few years ago they sent it into space, and they had to coat the mirrors with gold. Now they didn't choose gold, just out of the blue. I mean, obviously it was a lot more expensive to coat them in gold. They could have just coated them in silver, but it wouldn't have worked because silver wouldn't have provided the protection that they can only get with gold. Gold was the only metal they could think of to make it work.
So silver has many, many, many more use cases than gold. When you look at it on a net. So I'll tell you
why has silver never been more expensive than gold?
I'll tell you why.
Multi-thousands of years.
I'll tell you why. Because it's not. So number one, it's not as scarce. That's the first thing. And as you said, scarcity doesn't mean anything unless there's demand, right? And what's happened with gold is that it is a scarce metal which has a demand. Now, where does the demand come from? The demand comes from the actual use cases of gold, which you've mentioned correctly. Gold does have a lot of use cases as a metal, including jewelry, including fillings, including satellites, including a whole lot of other use cases. But the main use case for gold is for people to store as a store of value. You'll agree with me on that, right? The majority of the gold in the world. I got to make
one point. The reason it's a store of value, and there's only one reason it's a store of value, and that's because of all those use cases, and because gold does not decay over time.
So
I think
the data says you're wrong, Peter. I think the data says you're wrong. I'll tell you why. Because if you were to use gold for all its use cases and you were to remove the store of value use case, then gold wouldn't be nearly as expensive. So if you look at the functional use cases of gold, and I'm going to include jewelry in it as well, which, by the way, it shouldn't be included, and I'll tell you why it shouldn't be included in a second. But if you look at the use cases of gold x the store of value, then the use cases of gold alone do not warrant the price of gold. However, because of the fact that it is
but you're talking about I'm storing gold to be used in 1,000 years. What's the present value of that
for every use case that gold has today? Today there is a competing and cheaper compound that can do exactly the same thing. For every industrial use case, for every industrial use case that gold has, there is a cheaper compound that can do exactly the same thing. The only reason if it's cheaper, it's not as good, but it'll do. Because then why do they even use gold? So why do they use gold in cell phones to conduct electricity? Why don't they use copper? It's cheaper. They use very little gold in cell phones. And
but why do they use any? Why do they use any?
So they can use it, but the most use case of gold, is the fact that people have agreed that it's a store of value. It has a network effect as the store of value. People have largely agreed that it is a store of value. And on the other side, it has scarcity.
Most people don't know anything about gold. They don't even pay attention to it.
I think that people that believe that understand the concept of store of value and
I think we can agree that there actually is more people right now who are using Bitcoin as a store of value than gold. I don't think anybody uses store of value.
Well, hold on.
I think they're using it to speculate on an increase of price. People are not buying Bitcoin because they expect the price to stay stable.
But hold on, isn't a store of value something that's going to hold its value better than than something else as compared to the US dollar? So do we agree that the definition of a store of value? Do we agree? No. Let's just agree on the definitions. Do we agree that the definition of a store of value is something that can hold its value better against the US dollar? Over time.
Over a period of time.
If you're buying Bitcoin because you think it's going to 10x or 20x over the next several years, you're not buying it because you want it to store value. Storing value would be, I'm going to put my money into Bitcoin, and when I take my money out in a year, in 5 years, I can still buy the same amount of goods.
Hold on. I think
Peter, both a gold investor and a Bitcoin investor. And I'm telling you, we look at it exactly the same. We look at those two things exactly the same.
Peter, I think let's just understand what is a store of value. Can we agree that a store of value is something that over a long period of time holds its value better against a dollar? Is that a good definition of a store of value?
I think the starting point is you have to have value that you can store. So the store of value has to start off with some value. And so with gold, I'm storing the metal.
define, if you were to define for me, what is a store of value? What is a store of value? It is something that can...
It's a good, right? A commodity, a good that over time will maintain its purchasing power.
Against
example, in a Roman toga, a Roman toga cost about an ounce of gold, right? And that was how a man would dress in Rome. You'd buy a nice made toga, and it was an ounce of gold. Today, you can buy a fine tailored suit for an ounce of gold. So over thousands of years, a man can clothe himself with an ounce of gold. So that ounce of gold has stored
I think we're
that
saying.
value.
So I think we're saying the same thing. We're saying that over a long period of time, a good store of value is something that over a long period of time either holds its value or appreciates against the US dollar. You agree with me on that?
Well, if you're looking, your Bitcoin is looking for massive appreciation. You know, I'm going to get rich. You don't get rich owning a store of value by definition. You want to get rich, you have to make productive investments. You have to do work. People think Bitcoin is a get-rich-quick scheme.
But again, I'm trying to understand. And
I'm going to be rich.
But wait, Peter, hold on. I'm trying to understand when we define the word store of value, we are looking for things.
You have to store something of value.
Hold on.
You have to have a valuable thing that you are storing.
We're looking to hold an asset.
When you're storing Bitcoin, you're storing nothing of value.
Hold on.
Bitcoin has a price. That's all. It has no value. It has a price.
Peter, hold on. Can we agree that a store of value is something that over a long period of time holds its value or appreciates against the US dollar? Yes or no?
Yeah, but if it has value to begin with, it has to start off with value.
Hold on. The value is something denominated in another currency, right? So if I'm willing to trade $1 for something that has a value of relative to the US dollar, you'll agree with that, right? I mean, that's mathematics, right? You can't not agree with mathematics. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but we can't agree to disagree on mathematics.
I'm not even sure what you're asking me to agree to.
I'm asking you just to agree. I'm asking you just to agree on the definition of a store of value. So can we just agree, devoid of Bitcoin, devoid of gold? Can we agree that a store of value is anything?
You can say real estate. You can say land is a store of value. I mean, land's not going anywhere. But
exactly any asset that over a long period of time. Over a long period of time,
I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that Bitcoin has any value to begin with. So how do you store what you don't have?
Okay, hold on.
You can't store something that you don't have.
Fortunately, Peter, there's a lot of people, unlike you, who do want my Bitcoin, who would be very interested.
Yeah, because they think the price is going to go up. Yeah,
but hold on.
You don't store value in things where you think the price is going to go down, Peter. That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
obviously, you think the price is going to go up.
If people thought that the price of Bitcoin was just going to hold its value over time, maybe go up 10% a year, most of the people who own it would get rid of it.
So hold on, Peter. Let's just define something. Let's just define a few things. One is I think we've agreed that a store of value is something that over a long period of time holds its value or appreciates against the US dollar. That's a definition of a store of value, right?
No, that's not. That's your definition. It ain't mine. But go ahead.
Okay, what is your definition of a store of value?
His definition. Let me be Peter.
Something that has value.
A physical thing. It has to be physical.
It doesn't have to be physical, but
okay,
usually.
Is art a store of value? Art is a store of value.
Wait, hold on. Can a domain name? If I own a domain name, www.amazon.com, can that be a store of value? Can that be a store of value?
No. I think a lot of those intangible assets are more of an investment because you really have no idea. Maybe the domain name will be valuable in the future. Maybe it won't be. It's more.
So I'm asking to agree. I'm asking to. I just want to agree on. I don't really care if it's Bitcoin or gold. I just want to agree on the definition of what do we define as a store of value. That's what I want to agree on. I just want to understand what a store of value is.
I think I would think it has something of value that can be stored and can be expected to maintain that value over time.
Relative to maintain the value relative to maintain the value relative to what? Hold on. Maintain the value relative to what?
In absolute terms. So it doesn't matter what it's relative to.
What is absolute terms? How do we define absolute terms? How do we define absolute terms?
It's purchasing power. I mean, what?
Okay, fantastic. So purchasing power is relative to the dollar. So purchasing power is relative to the dollar.
It has nothing to do with the dollar. It's just relative to the goods and services that I want to purchase.
And the goods and services that you want to purchase are denominated in?
Well, they could be denominated in anything. I mean, it doesn't matter what, they may not be denominated in dollars. The dollar could go away. They could be denominated in something else.
Okay.
But it's like, if I
would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that if I started off,
how many barrels of oil can I buy with an ounce of gold today? I would expect to be able to buy some similar quantity at some point in the future. Not exact.
Peter, would you agree with me that if I would have put $1,000 into Bitcoin and I would have put $1,000 into gold at any point in time, really at any point in time before today, would you agree with me that Bitcoin held its value better relative to any other asset than gold?
No, I'd say that Bitcoin has appreciated more. Its price has gone up more than gold. But I could say the same thing.
So if Bitcoin has done this, if Bitcoin's done this for the last 13 years,
winning lottery ticket.
If Bitcoin's done this for the last 13 or 14 years,
it's gone way up.
Let's just say hypothetically it continues to do it for another 10 years. Then will you agree that Bitcoin has been a better store of value? Is a better store of value?
No, Bitcoin has not been a store of value. It has appreciated. Its price has gone way up. People who bought it a long time ago have gotten rich by selling it now.
Peter,
yes, I don't agree with that. I don't disagree that people have gotten rich buying Bitcoin. I disagree that they got rich by buying a store of value. They did not.
You have investors, you have people who listen to you, and those people have underperformed Bitcoin by a massive
Everybody
amount.
has underperformed Bitcoin. Well, I mean, what difference does that make?
It makes a difference between you're in the wrong asset. That's the problem. Okay. Literally, you're being paid to provide financial advice and you're giving really bad financial advice. Your track record is the worst track record, literally, of any person in the world. Because I don't know anybody who's been negative on Bitcoin since Bitcoin $1. I don't know a single person.
I'm telling people not to buy Bitcoin. There are a lot of other people, professionals in the financial services that don't tell people to go out and buy Bitcoin.
Okay, but hold on. I have to ask this question. I started with this question.
But you really have the world record, though.
I'm not the only one.
That is the world record.
Believe me, I'm not the only one that doesn't believe in this nonsense.
Okay, but Peter, I mean, at what point would you believe in this?
How much Bitcoin has Warren Buffett bought?
Probably zero. I mean, admittedly,
he hasn't bought any either.
Yeah, but okay. What would it take to change your mind? Like, I mean, you agree with me? You agree with me that if you never changed your mind, then that would be a little bit short-sighted. That would be a little bit what they call boomerish, right?
I don't know what it would take to change my mind because nobody has said anything compelling enough to make me think that I'm wrong.
Peter,
other than just pointing to the high price. All you could do is point to the price and say, "Aha, the price has gone up. Therefore, you're wrong." And I've never said the price can't go up.
Here's the thing.
I remember early on.
I think you're missing a business opportunity.
I said it can go to 50,000. I said, how do I know? I mean, if people are dumb enough to pay 5,000, there may be someone dumb enough to pay 50,000. And so I was right. There were people dumb enough to do it. But now we bought off the politicians.
Your entire argument
doing it.
Wait, your entire argument, which is the same problem I had to not go into Bitcoin back in,
So maybe you were right then and you're wrong now.
No, but your entire argument is that some other crypto is going to take over.
No, it's not, because I'm saying it could. I don't think any of these tokens, if you keep coming up with a worthless token, I don't care what the supply is. I don't care how fast it is.
I've seen you promote worthless.
They don't have no value.
I'm not going to disagree with you that there's a lot of worthless tokens out there.
They're all worthless. There's no difference. Now, if you want to here's the key. You could tokenize gold, and you could have legitimate cryptocurrencies backed by gold. That will work. But the question is, do you need that?
Okay, but let's all agree, Peter. Let's all agree that we're all gold. We're all invested in gold. I'm invested in gold. I believe you're invested in gold. I know Fred's invested in gold. So we're not arguing about whether gold is or isn't a store of value. Gold has proven to be a good store of value, a reasonable store of value. All we're saying is that there may
it can also be, But gold can be a medium of exchange, a unit of account. It can be used in
When
commerce.
was the last time that you managed to use gold? When was the last time that you managed to use gold to exchange gold for anything?
Because nobody's doing it now. But if we were to go, if we were to tokenize gold,
why isn't anybody doing it now? Why isn't anybody doing it now?
Because they don't feel like they need to. They use dollars, they use euros, they use yen, they use credit cards, they use PayPal, they use Venmo, they use all the other things that all the Bitcoiners use. There's so many easy ways right now to pay and be paid. You don't need to use gold for that reason. But at some point, as inflation gets worse and worse and worse, you might see a movement out of fiat currencies into real money, and that's where gold can function. Gold
Peter, you're a businessman. You're a businessman. You sell gold. I gotta believe that your audience that you sell to, some percentage of them would be very open to buying Bitcoin.
I think a lot of them already own Bitcoin. Look. A lot of people,
no, but you could sell them that Bitcoin if you just open your mind a little bit, Peter. Okay.
No, my mind is open, but look, a lot of people that own Bitcoin have told me that I'm the reason they own it, and I feel bad in a way. I say, well, shit, that wasn't my intention. But a lot of people own Bitcoin because of me. A lot of people that are clients at Schiff Gold use their Bitcoin to buy gold. I mean, they sell it and then they buy some gold.
All I'm asking you to do, Peter, is just hedge your bets a little bit. We're not going to take you. You got to go. You're 100% gold. I'm
not 100% gold.
I know. I understand. Between those two assets, you're 100% gold.
Just 0% Bitcoin.
Peter, I just don't understand what, and I've known you for many years. In fact, I think the first time I interviewed you was 2016 or 2017 on CNBC. And I just don't understand what benefit you gain by not being open-minded to see.
I am open-minded. I just haven't come to the same conclusion that you have. See, why can't you accept the fact that somebody has looked into Bitcoin, studied Bitcoin, and just doesn't believe in it? I mean, I just don't see the value that you guys see. That's all.
But I agree with you. I agree with you that you may not see it. But ultimately, so many other people have seen it. I mean, just look at the ETF flows.
Well, a lot of people haven't.
I mean, look,
it's not like the whole world has. It's not like it's me against the entire world.
Well, however, the trend, if you look at number of people who are holding Bitcoin, right, the trend is not in your favor, right? The trend is like, we're getting now over several 100 million people use Bitcoin as one of the major parts of their wealth storage right now. That's the trend.
That's going to be very unfortunate for those people.
Well, so far it's been exactly the opposite.
Well, if they've sold, remember the vast majority.
If they sold, it's not as good. It's the ones that hodl that have done well. That's the ones who have sold, Peter.
All right. What if Bitcoin collapses down to 10,000? Right? How are the hodlers going to feel about that?
By the way, when was it last at 15,000? I'll tell you when.
Yeah,
November of 2022. Not even that long ago, right?
I know. So it can go back down there.
Look, I'll tell you one thing, Peter, is anything's possible with Bitcoin. It's extremely volatile. And I think, unlike what you said before, that people all expect it to go up, people realize that it's volatile and they realize that it's risky, but they feel like it is a long-term bet that they're willing to take. That is the actual bet.
One of the reasons that people are willing to accept the volatility is because they assume that it's always going to come back. And so if you believe that no matter how volatile something is, as long as you hold it, it's guaranteed to go higher, then you don't care about the volatility.
That has been a good assumption to have.
Yeah, but I think that's a false.
But you say that, but you have no basis for that. It's also like your basis.
I have every bet. You have so Bitcoin is finally the only asset that only goes up. We finally invented a no-lose investment. Nobody can lose. It always goes up. We finally found a tree that grows to the sky, and we can all get rich. We all just buy Bitcoin, and we all get rich. And nobody can lose.
That's not really the exact story here.
That is the exact story. That's what you're saying.
What I'm telling you, and I know it's going to be really hard for a dinosaur like you to accept this, right? But basically, we are moving from We went from a gold world in the 19th century to a fiat world in the 20th century. We are moving into a new world. Okay,
No, we're not.
It is. We are.
Well, we might.
Unfortunately,
It's not crypto. Maybe AI. Maybe AI might do it.
No.
I'm
talking about a means of storing money and transmitting money. That means it's going to be. I know. Listen, hey, a lot of people didn't think the car was going to. The horse and buggy are here to stay, right? But
you know what? Who's driving around in a Model T, right? The first cars aren't really that popular anymore.
Yeah,
well,
because
Bitcoin's different.
because we've moved. Look, I mean, I think the way that and Peter, I've known you for a long time. Fred, I've known you for a slightly shorter time. I think that I don't believe that you're going to change your view, and I think up until now it's proven that it's a huge mistake that you haven't changed your view, because had you changed your view, you and potentially your clients could have made multiples higher than they would have made on gold.
Look, I don't know that I could have recommended my clients buy it. I mean, I could have told them that I bought it, and that's kind of one of the reasons I didn't even want to take a flyer on it when I first heard about it, because I knew that I didn't want to buy it and then pump it up by telling other people to buy it. I felt bad about that. This is when it was like $1, and I thought I could have really influenced the market. And I thought that was kind of shady. Like I was going to have to keep it quiet.
Look, you can't make a difference. You can't make a difference to Bitcoin.
Now I can. Back then I could have. Back then when I first heard about it, and it was very thinly traded, I could have made a difference if I had
go back to your earlier point. Okay, I'm going to start.
But point. I know I make no difference now. I mean, it doesn't matter what the hell I say about Bitcoin. It's not, I'm not going to impact
Fair point.
it.
Correct. But so you should.
No, I do think if I actually came out in favor of Bitcoin, if I had this epiphany that you're hoping to achieve, if I came out and I said, you know what, I really like Bitcoin. I've done a deep dive and I finally swallowed the orange pill and I'm all in. I'm putting all my money in Bitcoin. I bet there would be some kind of pop if I did that.
It might be negative. Actually, it might be negative. This could be the end.
I don't believe.
It'll be a total.
Peter, I don't know how much.
No.
Peter, I don't know how much money.
Everybody wants you to not do that.
Peter, I don't know how much money.
That'll be the top, right? When I finally capitulate, then it's all over. So if I decide to buy Bitcoin, will you sell your Bitcoin?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Peter, I wonder, based on this discussion, if you have any views on what Michael Saylor's doing and MicroStrategy. I mean, I'd love to hear your views on what Michael's doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, Michael is one of the main reasons I believe that the price of Bitcoin is where it is. I think that the amount of money, I think in the last month he's borrowed or sold, he's purchased or spent $13.5 billion so far.
That's the number.
Buying Bitcoin. And he's already told the world that he's going to spend billions more, which of course is something that no rational buyer would do, right? You're not going to tell the world that you're going to buy something before you buy it because, people are going to front run. They're going to bid up the price. What his main goal is to manipulate the price higher. And that's what he's succeeded in doing. But he's leveraging up his balance sheet and diluting his shareholders as he averages up the price of Bitcoin. But I think what's driving this is there are a lot of
he's doing exactly the opposite because his shareholders are getting more Bitcoin per share. So
I think that there's some institutional players out there, kind of like the same ones who were buying the subprime mortgages that I was shorting back in the day. But I think there's some institutional players that want a piece of Bitcoin. They want a piece of the action on the upside, but they don't want the downside risk. And they think that Saylor is giving them this risk-free play on Bitcoin where I'm going to buy these convertible notes from MicroStrategy. And if Bitcoin goes way up, then I'm going to convert to equity. I'm going to get a big gain. And if Bitcoin crashes, I just get my money back. Right. But MicroStrategy is going to be so levered up.
You know what? They're smart. That's a good bet.
Yeah, no. But the problem is so many people are going to make that bet that by the time Bitcoin does go down, it's going to bankrupt MicroStrategy and these guys are going to lose all their money. So I think, and if I was ever going to buy Bitcoin, if I was ever going to do it, if I ever got convinced, I would wait until the bankruptcy of MicroStrategy. I'd wait till all those Bitcoin are sold into the market by the creditor. That's when I would buy. As long as he's still making these leverage buys, I wouldn't want any part of it. Even if I believed in Bitcoin, what you should do is get out, right? Let this thing play out and buy all your Bitcoin back after MicroStrategy goes bankrupt.
Okay, I mean, fair point. Look, I think I'm at the point now where I have been with you on many shows, and many people have tried to convince you to buy it, and I just believe that at this point you're probably not going to change your views. So I mean, it's been I think if you didn't
even if you don't really believe, you have to have some probability assessment of what is the chance of Bitcoin completely crashing and getting annihilated in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years. You have to have some number, and you have to have some belief, of how strongly you hold that.
Peter, as a matter of
and I can tell you, it's not 100. You cannot tell me, Fred, there's 100% shot that Bitcoin is going to go to zero within the next 10 years. I do not believe.
No, I don't
you even believe that.
Look, I don't think
you
it's
don't
100%,
believe that.
But obviously, the longer the time period, the higher that probability is. But it doesn't have to go to zero. What if it went to 1,000? That's still a lot of money for nothing. But if Bitcoin goes to 1,000,
I agree.
You still lost 99% of your money if you buy it here.
You've got to acknowledge that you've been wrong in the past. There's some chance that your thesis is not going to be the correct thesis going forward, and perhaps it is a wise move to diversify yourself a little bit to the idea that you might have the wrong thesis on Bitcoin.
Well, what's the worst thing that happens, right? Bitcoin goes up and I don't own it. I mean, there are plenty of things that can go up that I don't own. Why do I have to own Bitcoin?
Well, no. The other thing is, your current gold thesis could get obliterated. What if?
But I don't have all my money in gold either.
Where is your money?
I own companies. I own private companies. I own public companies. I own real
properties.
estate. I have, I mean, what's
Listen, you're going to be, look, I'm not saying you're going to be on the street. Okay. What I'm saying is you will have by having just a little bit of Bitcoin in your portfolio, you have a much better chance of really having a great return under any circumstance.
When do I sell my Bitcoin to realize that return?
You don't need to sell it. You can just borrow against it. You don't.
So I'm going to lever it up, and then what happens when it pulls back and I get a margin call?
Well, at some point you might lose whatever you have left, but you've lived off of it since. So let's just say
whole fantasy. We can all buy Bitcoin and pretend we're rich. We just
we're not pretending. You're borrowing hard cash. You're buying more places in Puerto Rico. You're buying more, companies. You're doing more things with the money. You're actually making use of it. It's not pretend. And at one point you might have some, and you might get, engulfed in the tsunami of the next massive Bitcoin crash, which there probably will be one. I'm not saying there won't. There always is. Ran, you've lived through many cycles. The difference is
eventually it's going to go down for the count. It's not going to go down and come back up. It's going to get knocked out. I mean, that's my thesis.
Well, even if you believe that, you don't believe it with 100% certainty.
No, I'm 100% certain that eventually
you're 100% certain we're going to flatline.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just don't think it's going to achieve what you think it's going to achieve, and I think they pushed Wall Street into it, right? And Wall Street got involved because they wanted to make money. Wall Street will sell anything if it can make a buck, right? So now they got all these Bitcoin ETFs, which to me defeat the entire purpose of Bitcoin. You introduce a centralized custodian who charges you a fee to take your Bitcoin away from you and hold it. And you have a third party. All this nonsense.
Peter, let me explain to you what's actually going to happen, which unfortunately is not what your thesis. What's actually going to happen is you got this $200-300 trillion of financial assets out there, and I know you would love for that to move into the gold market, but that's not
I don't care if it moves into gold.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you, a lot of a single-digit number or double-digit number of trillions of that money is going to find its way into Bitcoin.
Why?
Why? Because I'm just telling you, this is happening today. It's happening. Look at the Bitcoin ETF. Okay, iBit has, you know how much money they have right now? iBit has $50 billion, and it is the fastest growing ETF in the history of ETFs.
And what happens when the people in those ETFs want their money back? What happens when they start getting net liquidation?
They're ETFs, Peter. They aren't getting their money back. It's ETF.
No. What happens when the shareholders of those ETFs decide to sell? Now those ETFs have to start dumping their Bitcoin into the market.
Yeah, but that's the same thing with the gold ETF. I mean, if people start selling their gold ETF.
Yes, exactly. But the gold market is far deeper and more liquid. It can handle it.
But
if you had a bunch of liquidations, Bitcoin would collapse like a house of cards.
Well, the gold market is going to become inconsequential relative to the size of the Bitcoin market.
Well, it's not even close right now. I mean,
yeah, I'm just telling you, you're on the wrong side of history here. Look, what's happening? You're in the analog world. We've moved to the digital world.
It's taken 3 years for Bitcoin to get back to where it was 3 years ago, priced in gold. I mean, it finally made a new high. I didn't think it would, but it finally did, barely. But over the last 3 years, since its prior peak, it's barely gained any ground.
Bitcoin's going to be,
and I'm not
Bitcoin's going to be 100 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. Then it's going to be 1,000.
I got all kinds of digital stuff in my life. But again, how about this? Why don't you give up real food and just live on digital food? How about that?
Come on, Peter. Come on.
You just consume digital food.
You can't eat gold either. Last
I could use gold. Gold is a real thing. That's the point. I want real gold.
Bitcoin's not good because you can't eat it, but gold's great because I can use it.
Doesn't matter.
Your argument isn't.
How about living in a digital house? How about if you just live? Forget about an actual house. Just have a nice, big, beautiful digital house, and you live in that.
All right, guys. I think. Look, I think.
Unfortunately, things are not going to play out the way you want. They haven't
they're not
right
going
now.
to play out the way you think either, despite the fact that they've, the price has gone up.
Yeah, guys, I think we have to. I think unfortunately,
detail. Other than that, yeah,
we have to call it a day, guys. It's been fun. It's been entertaining. Okay. I don't believe we're going to be able to change Peter's mind, guys. Thank you so much. I think time will tell who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Peter, keep being Peter, and Fred, keep being Fred. And I'll see you guys again soon. To you guys, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a big Friday banter on this channel. We have Michael Saylor coming on to do a big Friday banter. I think it's his first real interview since Bitcoin hit $100,000, and he's going to be here tomorrow. So don't forget, that's a huge show. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.